Wow, we're backing on and on you a tuba. Wow, we're backing on and on you a tuba. Don't you think we're back on YouTube now? Meow, 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 do do do, bow 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 bow, do 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 do. Wow, it's Friday night on the YouTube. Wow, it's Friday night on the YouTube. Hankerin Ferinale hanging with the D&D. Don't you feel that tingling up your... I don't know if that's how the song goes. There's always that little squealing piggy toward the end of the song. Greetings, programs. Joe Buddy Hankerin Ferinale back once again here on Drunkards and Dragons. This is the YouTube channel known as Runehammer. I'm Ingrid Bernal, your host. It's Friday night, baby, and we're back once again on the old internets. Let me just pull my chair in here for proper posture. Wow. Somebody's got a case of the weirdos tonight. That's me. Hi, guys and gals. Wow. Yeah, another week has already passed somehow. That is just weird. We must be back in normal time now because the weekends are like sneaking up. If you remember, like last year in quarantine, when we were in that old quarantine, man, it would take a year for a week to pass. It was crazy. But now we're back in that normal life where everything's going all quick. Hi, everybody. Yo, Jimmy, Purple Banana, what's up? Luke Russell, Jason Connolly, how y'all doing? Yeah, it's already Friday night again. So tonight we're going to be talking about in my 18th session with my OSE group, and those are the bookshelves over there. There's nothing. I don't know why I'm looking there. There's nothing happening over there. Nothing at all. Yeah, we're going to be talking about my 18th session with my old school essentials group, and then also just a few little ideas and doodles and dibbity dangs that I use to run that session because it's a somewhat challenging subject matter. That occurred in session 18. At least for a dullard like me, it's challenging. And then we're probably going to field some questions. Oof. And I'm going to shill my wares, kind of catch you guys up. If you've been watching me on the various social networks, you know that I've had sort of a lot of things happening all at the same time as far as my, getting things done-ativeness. Getting things done-ativeness. Why? Why do people tune into this god-awful internet show? It's a TV show. I'm on TV. This is TV. This is Magic Land. This is Hollywood. And it's time for the show to begin. Hey, Drew, that's good news. Thanks, man. Appreciate that. Okay. Now, you guys know how this sort of water slide of craziness happens. So the preamble before we start talking about the session 18 recap is that in session 17, you guys may recall that we had our first dragon slaying that occurred. It was a young green dragon. And I just homebrewed that dragon. I've gotten several questions about where I got my dragon sort of stat block. And to be totally honest, I just kind of glanced at the dragon stat block in the Old School Essentials book. But I've got my own dragons in my own head about sort of what they do and what they have. And I used a fixed tactics kind of system and just laid down the stats just from sort of the old noggin and just wrote it in my journal. That's just how I created that dragon. So for those of you who've been curious, it's just kind of a good old homemade dragon. That's what that was. Anyway, so they beat that thing and then got back to Blackmore Castle. And, you know, kind of cashed in on their characters like big time. Probably our biggest moment of progression in the entire campaign was wrapping up session 17. A moment that I would, in an ideal sort of timeline, would like to wrap up at the end of session 20. Session 20 being this huge milestone, 20 being a cool round number. And that's when they really sort of enter higher level play. But the way that this played out, it happened at the end of 17. And they chose on a sort of a lark or on sort of instinct, or maybe starting to understand the meta side of D&D, which is that players can probe the world. They don't just have to do what is presented. Now, you don't really want them just ignoring what's presented, like, you know, screw this world-threatening stuff. We're not interested in being awesome and helping all these people that have helped us. We're just going to go drink in the tavern. That's not necessarily very cool. That doesn't feel very collaborative. But one of the great things about D&D that something like a video game or a board game can never capture is this truly open-ended aspect. And they exploited this, or made good on it, you might say, and chose to go to this mysterious island, which is south of Castle Blackmore. Okay, so that was the end of session 17. Now we've got some moving gears as far as our sort of club or cult goes, which is that we have a new member joining. And we had a founding member who has played Burr, who's now called Galmorn, who's really has had a deeply invested, truly rich and nuanced sort of character journey. He went on tour, and so he's gone for 2 weeks. And so we kind of built that absence into the story. While he exits stage left for a few sessions, we have our new player entering stage right, and he's also brand new to D&D. Basically has heard of it like so many people, but really didn't know what it was about. Sort of got himself into reading the PDFs, did his homework really great, came prepared. We rolled up his character with everyone as witnesses. We do 3d6 down the line, hardcore style. It can lead to some low stats, but you just kind of play those low stats and they become sort of part of your personality. I think it's a really good move to do. It's just a matter of getting used to not having all awesome stats. So for some people that might feel a little weird at first, but I do think it makes the game a little more interesting. So we did that. He rolled up a thief raised by elves. So we do this raised by rule. If you guys check out my OSE hack, it lets players of OSE blend the classes just a little bit. So we give a property of their sort of raised by origin story. So they can just get like one more little property that fits whatever it is they may be dreaming up. And so we have this human thief who was raised by elves in the Shadow Guild in Blackmore itself, in the city, like sort of under the city, a lot like the sort of Thieves Guild in Skyrim. You know, they kind of live in this sort of subterranean world where they exchange treasure for, you know, rank and privilege in the Thieves Guild and stuff like that. And that is his origin. So he's coming into the game while Galmorn is leaving the game for a short time. So you guys can check out my session 17 recap for all the details of what happened to Galmorn. It's a beginning, but him coming back, I still need to work out with him exactly what he did on his sort of sabbatical, like when he was out there with these sort of things called the Bound. So meanwhile, session 18, before the session happens, offline using text, I privately did an exchange with our new player. So none of the current players could see this. And we basically got the groundwork of his backstory. And then we got the groundwork of where he is right now, like what he would be doing. So he wanted to go, and he's like, imagined himself trying to do like a solo heist. I mean, this is what thieves do, right? Thieves hear about treasure and they try to do it solo so they can keep it all to themselves. You know, like thieves who work in teams, you know, unless you're like, you know, Farford and the Gray Mouser, like it usually doesn't go well. I can't, this phone is in my pocket and it's, good God, what? Here we go. It's like, yeah, okay. It's like having a Stephen King novel in my pocket that just wasn't working out. And it wasn't even one of the good novels. It was one of the weird ones. Anyway, so offline in a private text chat, I'm working with him about this heist. And so what he wants to do is be on a heist. And I know where, yeah, John, exactly, right? It never ends well, though. It might be cool. But just like Philadelphia, bad things happen in teams of thieves. So his little sort of story and visualization that he wanted to do is that he heard this rumor about a lost treasure. Where else? Out on this island, which is south of Blackmore in the bay. This sort of mist enshrouded sort of island. He had heard that there was a shipwreck there years ago, and the highly valuable sort of cargo was never recovered. He's heard from like a drunken old sailor in the tavern that it's washed ashore recently. It was spotted from the bay before the weather turned, and he's going to go out there and try to retrieve it on his own. So that we discussed in private. Remember, my other players don't know that this exchange happened, and that's how I do a lot of my entrances and exits and side stories with my characters, is that I'll start separate chat threads with them that are isolated. We kind of joke each other about, it's called epistemological compartmentalization. And this is like a real kind of lofty term that really makes you sound like someone who's gloating about their vocabulary. Like, I speak Latin. Yeah. But that's really exactly what it is. It's epistemological compartmentalization. I don't know how else to. It is keeping what players know separated in compartments so that they have believable interactions when they do combine. Thanks, Kuchigari, as always, for the tip. So that is our context. We have our main group traveling by ship, their own ship, which they now command, called the HMS Dirt. It's a small ship, kind of like the one in Princess Bride that they used to get to Gilder. They're heading to the island down through the bay, and it's this icy bay. It's like sleeting out. Remember, it's winter. It's the beginning of winter. It's like mid-November in our world, and they're taking the ship down the night before our new thief, whose name is Wayne Wayward. So Wayne Wayward is trying to take this very small boat, like a dinghy, down there by night. But in our secret text exchange, he encounters terrible weather. It tosses and turns his little boat, and then things in the darkness are in the water and begin lashing his boat and pulling like boards off of his boat. His boat eventually breaks apart enough to sink mostly, and he's clinging to a piece of wreckage. This piece of wreckage he's clinging to, and occasionally through the night, some kind of creatures are lashing at it. Whoa. I must be allergic to adventure. I don't know where that was crazy. I knew it was coming for like the last 5 minutes too. It was brewing. I'm only human, of flesh and sneeze I'm made. I am just a man. Anyway, so through the night, he's being lashed by some kind of creatures that he never sees in the water. Fast forward to mid-morning the next day, he is freezing cold. He's desperate for help. He's just clinging to this freaking door, like, Titanic style. And now we switch over to my main group of players in their boat. They're cruising along. They're using a spyglass. They're watching. They're navigating, carefully approaching this island because they've heard that ships disappear when they go to this island. And then they hear this bump, 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 a bumping against the hull. They look over the side of the gunwale rail, and there they see this wreckage with a cloaked figure clinging and freezing on this wreckage. And bang, all my characters are now in the same scene. And just like that, we roll initiative. This initiative roll is because there are dark shapes coming up out of the water. Seeing that this character is probably about to get rescued, they have one last chance to pull him under. They come up. No one ever spots what these swimming things are, but sort of these kelpy green ropes come lashing out of the water, and they basically have like iron nails tied to them, sort of like a lash or a whiplash, right? It's a piece of cord with barbs on it. It's a nasty, nasty thing. And these are whipping out of the water. Our thief takes a little bit of damage, but then our players, who are now well into their power, they have a really good sense not only how to execute effective attacks, but how to conserve resources. They're really learning all the core skills of D&D now. They have these 4 targets in the water, and they instantly get that turn, they get that initiative, and they just pick them off one by one, each one using their kind of specialty, and then also retrieve this survivor, all basically in a round and a half. But never spot what these swimming things are. They just destroy them in the water, and then there's a moment of like, damn, we are gassed up right now. Like, we are badasses. They drag this guy onto the deck. He introduces himself, but really says almost nothing. And then, this is my player role playing here, he just passes out into a cot. He's just, after his ordeal, he's just like, hello, my name is Wayne. I just, 1 second, poof, passes out in a cot. So now we've got all my group together, and we're sailing toward this island. The mist clears enough that they can make an approach. Their ship is manned by Captain Kidd and one crewmate who they've named Queequeg, the character from Moby Dick. So Captain Kidd and Queequeg get this ship as close as they can to this rocky promontory. Promontory was our vocabulary word of the night. We kind of have a funny thing in our group about like sort of pushing the vocabulary envelope a little bit. And one of my players sort of takes notes on silly, obsequious vocabulary each session. So we had this promontory of rock, and they pull the ship alongside this rocky mass, which is low enough to the water that, a landing could be staged. But the waves are pounding against this sheer black sort of basalt bedrock. And Captain Kidd is just like, there's no way I can keep the boat safely next to this island. Like, this whole island is just jagged rock. There are no beaches or coves. Like, there's no way. So he says, but I can give you a second. So he pulls the ship up alongside. And I got to tell you, you guys, this is maybe weird, and it probably wasn't my players' favorite moment of the night, but this was my favorite moment of the night. It was, he comes up and then he yells, kind of in more in-game terms, but basically, you have 1 round to disembark. You have 1 round to disembark. If they can't get off the ship and onto the shore in 1 round, the ship has to pull away. And if Captain Kidd tries to hold it there, it will be damaged, slamming into the cliffs. So they have 1 clean round. And again, this was a great moment to see my players bring this gassed up effect, right? They have mobility spells. They have mobility items. They have skills. They have better understanding of which stats to use and which ones to avoid in dangerous situations. They managed to kind of do this team maneuver to sort of jump, fly, and use ropes to like get on this island all in the span of 1 turn, 4 characters. And then Captain Kidd and Queequeg have to like throw this ballast line over the left and yank themselves out, then reel in the line and like drop these 2 sandbags and ride a wave away from the island. And as they're getting clear of this rocky shore, the sort of leader of our group yells, come back for us in 48 hours. Give us 2 days time. This is a GM's dream right here. This wasn't even my idea. They are trapped on this island now for 2 days with no way off. It's perfect. It falls right into my sort of trap theory belief, which is like containment is a huge part of good D&D, is that when you have really tight containment on the group during certain parts of the story, it's really easy to understand why they're undergoing the trials and the risky sort of dangerous events and perils that they are, because they're contained. So, why not just wait things out in D&D? Why not just raise an army and go kill the dragon stuff? Because the most common form of containment is time, right? Things are getting worse in the world as time is passing, so they can't just sit around. But then we have spatial containment as well, which is what now this island is doing. They are on here. They're in my fun house for 2 days, and I get to have fun with them. Now, I've got some plans for tonight, which involve rhythm that I mentioned last week, but now I want to really get into it. And then I'm going to tell you what happened. So last week, we fought one big, difficult enemy with extremely spiky behavior, meaning that there are rounds where it's not doing anything. It's just sort of flying overhead. But then when this dragon comes down, there is a very high chance of losing a character instantly, but then up. And then nothing happens much. So you have a single giant difficult target who has extremely spiky, this is what I mean by spiky, sort of damage or danger output, right? It's like very low amount of danger, then extremely high, and then very low, and so on and so forth. And right, just as Dolphins to Go mentions, I wanted to switch this rhythm up completely this week and get them into a true horde. They really have not encountered a horde yet. And I don't think they even knew that like a thing like a horde is something that you could take on in D&D. But we all know who've been playing for years and stuff, like sort of fighting an endless horde can be really, really cool and fun, especially if your GM has a couple of nice tools and tricks to make it, exciting and smooth. And so that's my one piece, is that I wanted to do the horde. The second piece that I wanted to do, as a great contrast to the leveling up and almost the buffet of treasures last session, was to deny them rest completely while they're on this island. Then they gave me the added bonus of committing to the island for 2 days. But there is no way to rest on this island. There are giant mosquitoes. There are all kinds of creepy crawlies in the grass. There are things looking for them constantly. The weather is like magically controlled, and so it's volatile. There is no way to rest on this island unless they come up with something crazy I haven't thought of, which is possible. But this is my second idea, is for the first time to truly, truly deny them rest. And yeah, Loco, I've got to grow the beard back in for Renaissance Fair, so you know how that goes. So I'm going to deny them rest, and we're going to do a horde. Okay, those are just like bullet points I have in my journal, and here's how they played out. No, that's empty. Darn, my drink is empty. Well, anyway. So what is on this island? So they begin investigating. They find some cut stairs in the rock. So something is here. They begin working their way up these stairs. Our mage uses his scrying stone to try to map the island, does so somewhat successfully, but doesn't see a lot of movement. Notices some very strange metallic wreckage or weird architecture higher up in the cliffs of the island. Jungles all over the island, even though it's freezing cold out on the water. As they're working their way up these stairs, they hear a deep gulping, croaking sounds. Y'all know what that is. So the first thing that comes is a wave of what they will soon learn are the sort of the grunts. And then comes my real dandy. So they're going up these stairs. Our thief gets a little bit ahead, and then boom, 4 of these frogman warriors jump out of the mist. Behind them, there's a warm breeze. So they're almost like they're in the transition between the cold air and the magically tropical island air. A scouting party of frogman warriors appears. They have fishnet loincloths, and they used sharpened whale ribs as spears, like these curved spears that they're insanely fast with these things. Like that. So my heroes say, frogmen, we got these. They go up, but these frogmen are so quick and so aggressive. You know how frogs sometimes, they move so quick, almost like a bird where you can't see them move? That's how these mofos are. These suckers are quick. So the opening salvo, I give my players their first mechanical reveal. These frogs do not roll to hit, and they don't roll damage. They just do 2 damage. Tap, tap, like that. Tap, tap. So 2, 4, 6, 8 damage is output like right away, because I've got 4 of these dudes. This now is, you're probably already seeing it in your head. This is how you can run a really big horde of creatures. Each one of them has 2 hit points, and each one of them does 2 damage. It's so dirt simple, but oh boy, does it get crazy. Okay, so those are my frogman warriors. We get some shenanigans there. They heal the guy up front. They make it through this sort of very small encounter with the frogman warriors, but then they hear a deep, loud croak, and they see the mist being drawn into some kind of light. And then as the mist clears and they move a little further forward, they meet this gigantic toad. And this huge toad opens its big mouth, and in its throat is a freaking portal, a dimensional gateway in its goiter. And this, my friends, is a portal gulper. This is a huge, magically enchanted toad who basically regurgitates frogman warriors out of this portal in its mouth. Like goes, and like D8 frogmen come out. And then again, every round. So when you're spawning all these frogmen, you're building, a lot like Kirby. Exactly. Yeah. It's a pocket dimension in the goiter of his throat. And these guys are jumping out in squads. And of course, your portal gulper has more hit points. I think mine had like 30 HP and has a couple actions. We don't do armor class on monsters, so I don't have an AC on them. We just do a to hit penalty if something's really tough. Like our dragon had a -3 to hit penalty, but we don't have armor classes on our bad guys. So yeah, boom, a bunch of frogmen come out, and my players had a moment of like, so there's like 12 frogmen, like right away, that get 24 guaranteed damage. Yes, that's exactly what's happening. So people are dropping, they're using their heals. Our halfling has become our healer. If you guys remember, he got a level of cleric last session, then used his experience take to level that cleric up at the end of session 17. So we have a bona fide healer now who also makes potions. We have a real healer, and thank goodness, or that none of this would have been survivable. The heals start coming out. They managed to take down the gulper using, we also have a floating intelligence sword, and they use some rope to tie the mouth shut to buy them some time on the next spawn. But then our fighter Zippler brings out the Horn of Blasting. A lot of campaigns have had this over the years. Horn of Blasting is a fantastic weapon, but an extremely loud weapon. Boom! It echoes up the cliffs of the island, and I'm thinking to myself, these portal gulpers are hearing this. They're coming. So we roll for how many are coming, and they're coming down the hill, and they're going to be here how soon. We get 4. There's 4 freaking portal gulpers coming. That means you can be getting like 32 frogmen per round. It instantly gets completely freaking crazy. So if you look on Instagram, there's a great photo where we're using a bunch of yellow dice to represent the quantities of frogmen. At one point, we had a squadron of 29 frogmen with over 100 on the board, and the characters begin to try to think about how they're going to lure and redirect these huge groups of frogmen who are outputting massive amounts of damage. They also have another epiphany of what they can do. Slim, our werewolf halfling. Remember, my characters have cursed treasure that when you touch it, you instantly transform into your lycanthropic form. So they intentionally touch Slim with this, turn him into a werewolf, and back away. We now have a low-level werewolf ripping through these suckers and regenerating any damage that is not done with silver each turn. These frogmen do not have silver. This werewolf is a frogman killing machine. So he begins going, he keeps getting taken out, but then he regenerates a few hit points at the beginning of each turn. So he's back up, he's torn to pieces, he's ripping these frogs up left and right. What a scene. It's fantastic. Out comes Ruin. Ruin beheads a bunch of them. Then boom, fireball. Then boom, another fireball. It's on. Then we get a wall of fire using this gem. The gem eventually is destroyed because the sort of our fighter pushes it too hard. We keep asking every time he uses it, the gem of firewall. If it's destroyed, like on the 3rd use, sure enough, the gem breaks. This is one of the best items they have in the group, is this gem. It's gone. They've destroyed at this point over 120, 150 frogmen. Then they figure out to use the trees. They get up high in the trees. This incurs a delay on the frogmen long enough for them to use various area attacks and other tactics to begin carving their way through the frogmen. And then they learn somebody's got to focus on the gulpers. So they're working the gulpers. They're working the gulpers. Another person is drawing the frogman warriors and taking them out. And through this entire process, and we come on into 12:30, so easily a 6-hour or over 6-hour session, they have cleared the field. And on this final gulper, Zippler, our fighter, gets a little overexcited, and he sees that this gulper is probably 6 hit points away from death. And like a crazy person, he pulls out the Horn of Blasting again. And he's like, no, wait. But said, no, you blew the Horn of Blasting. Luckily, the dice were kind to him and only drew 1 more gulper down. And the whole team is now ready to focus fire, drops the gulper just like that. And we finally have a moment of quiet on the island as these frogmen, whoever they may be, are regrouping. The characters desperately look for somewhere to rest, but they keep getting bit by mosquitoes. They can't find any like sort of hollows or caverns or anything in the ground. And the weather here is very strange. Like the sun just seems fixed in the middle of the sky. It's clearly a magically in sort of tropical area in the middle of a cold bay. They search for somewhere to rest. They can't find it. And we know now that we're winding down the session. And so they begin just scouting a little bit, just looking around. They know that the session's kind of over. And they find the sort of the edge of the cliffs in this part of the island. I'm looking at my map in my journal, which I'll post on Instagram tonight. And they see down these cliffs innumerable precisely drilled holes. Zillions of perfectly circular holes drilled into the cliffside. And for a moment, the mist gets a little thinner, and they see all these holes are concentrically oriented, just so, and they all point directly at Castle Blackmore in the distance. What are these precisely drilled holes? Once again, my wizard is using his crystal ball, which is now being infiltrated by this frog eye. Someone is watching when he's watching. But he manages to get a read, and then they find this strange piece of metal wreckage. It's a curved piece of plate metal, but that's iridescent, sort of has this pearl shine, weighs almost nothing. This is the first hint of one of Dave Arneson's wackiest and wildest components in Blackmore. And those of you who know, and I'm sure you're sort of excited to see this part finally emerging after 18 sessions of Blackmore. We're finally getting into this, almost what I would consider one of the final moving pieces of Dave Arneson's vision of Blackmore, sort of get its first clue. But they resolve this battle. They realize they cannot rest, and they've greatly depleted their resources, somewhat in the opening few salvos. Now they're wondering what to do. Can they just hide somewhere? Do they really want to know what's going on this island? What have they stumbled into here? None of these questions will get resolved at this time because there's no safety for them. XP will not be tallied at this time because they're not in safety. And we move on to session 18, which will be, session 19, which will be Monday. Then we're going to have an off week, and then session 20 is a big one where we're going to sort of celebrate that we made it to 20 sessions, and you're going to kind of, have a good time. Maybe get somewhere special to go play, and raise a glass to the Dirty Jobs crew. So that was the end of session 18. And it was fantastic. It was so intense that, we played till about 1. And then kind of we're on the back patio, smoke them if you got them kind of a thing afterward. And there's just sort of this whoa, and everybody's planning out their week and talking it down. And we realized, we've been playing forever. That was one of our longest sessions to date, because it was sort of just this riveting tactical action session that they really haven't done anything like that. And if you look at that fun photo on Instagram of Zippler when he had his giant growth potion, he's just standing down like 70 or so, like frogmen represented by dice on our board. It was just really, really exciting. So it's great to see any group make it to 20 sessions. I think 20 sessions is a great achievement for the length of a campaign. I think if you get up into 50 sessions or so, you are running with the absolute best of them. At a normal monthly pace, think about that. That would be a 4-year campaign to do 50 sessions. So we'll do it in faster than 4 years. But I think that's kind of where my players have their eyes set. And we're going to start in the next session. We will start and maybe even complete the revelation of what this sort of next big chunk of the world is. So remember, the chunks we revealed so far are the warring dragons in the redwoods. Then we have the arch vampire Admiral Akarov. And then we have the Skandahar Vikings who are invading from the north. And now here comes our fourth sort of big piece. A faction or a front is what some GMs would call these sort of large pieces of your world, where they're bullet points in your journal, but it doesn't mean you know exactly what's going to happen. You just know that these are parts of this world, and sort of how it plays out will be up to you and your players. So as you can see from how I ran these frogmen, the sort of the tips and tricks that I was going to mention about running a big horde are implicit, right? Constant spawn. That's the first key. Unless players can find a way to plug the hole, so to speak, to sort of plug the gate through which whatever you're spawning is spawning. In my group's case, they used a dwarven rope and wrapped it around the mouth of this gulper and, reeled it in tight. Eventually that rope was destroyed when Ruin came chopping down. So they lost yet another super high value item. Really was an expensive session for them. But that's your first piece. Constant spawn unless players can actively mitigate the spawn rate. And then the second piece is run no to hit roll and no damage roll for your little mookie guys. So they each do 2 damage, and they each have 2 hit points. So 2 hit points is kind of cooler than 1 hit point because there's a very rare chance that they won't die. And that gives you sort of that many more damage output the next round because you've got a couple frogs that made it. But generally, you get into things like Fireball and Wall of Fire. So these guys have absolutely no chance, and you just are just destroying them en masse. Also, with something like the Horn of Blasting, you can really take out a lot of them in one shot. And players are basically learning not to do single targeting on groups. Another core strategy and tactic for players to master if they want to get to higher levels. You can't be just stabbing 70 frogs. You need your mage to come in, and you need to expend disposable items that can do area damage. And so there we are, rolling in on session 18 killing. And those are just the techniques that I use to run this huge horde. And at a certain point, there's no way to track how many frogmen warriors were killed as far as XP goes. So we just estimated it to be somewhere near 200. So if you imagine, also, don't forget, this is just, frogmen warriors, whatever, but put that image in your mind. You're on this jungle island, and 200 frogman warriors swarming through these palm trees, stabbing with these whale ribs. It's crazy. And no, I don't have enough minis. Eric, please go check out the photo on Instagram. You'll see how I represent these kind of monsters. Also, we do not use miniatures for monsters in our game. We use little skull dice and other tokens because we like to keep things in the imagination. The only thing we use miniatures for are the heroes themselves. And then, of course, I made a paper craft miniature. There's the experimental version of it is right back there, for a dragon, because a dragon is different than a common monster. You really do want to see that at the table. No, a werewolf does not have multiple attacks, but he was using various methods they had haste cast on them, and then he could use a coin to cleave with an attack, and so on and so forth. He was also just a good decoy. He could keep the frogmen running around, get dropped by the damage, and pop back up with a couple hit points next round. So against a larger enemy, the werewolf really is not that useful. But against a group like this with these high constant damage output, not spiky output, amazingly useful. But a werewolf in a lot of other environments would not be great because you can't use any of your gear when you're a werewolf. Your gear kind of goes into, magic space, like with the Hulk, right? So, and you also don't have the focus of mind to use a lot of equipment as a werewolf. Plus, I just don't see werewolves using gear. It just seems silly to me. So without your gear in some battles, you really would become useless. Or without tactical awareness, you could become useless. But in a feral situation like this is just an army, then it's really useful. Do you limit enemy attacks based on range? Well, they just had to get up close. Yeah, they're just doing melee. My frogs were only doing melee. Now, you want to talk about dangerous, get into a horde situation with archers. Very difficult to beat, but we'll talk about that at a future time. 50 Toadman minis. Eric, I really have adopted minimalism in our game. And we have truly, we even kind of went outside of it once and had a couple miniatures for monsters, and my players actively told me they don't like it. They prefer abstract monster in miniatures because it keeps it all kind of in your head, and you get a cooler scene in your head rather than starting to feel like you're sort of looking at the action figures in a literal way. And I couldn't agree with him more. It's got me doing index card terrain again, like I really love doing. And it's just got us with a simpler, cleaner table that I think keeps the sort of action in your mind. And I really enjoy that. So there we go. Best tip for combat in D&D 5th. Yeah, well, I don't play that. So I agree generally that more damage and less HP is good, but not really. I think there's rhythm. You want high HP, low damage monsters. They're really fun. You just don't want them all the time. You want super high damage, low HP, sort of spear type or arrowhead type characters, but not all the time. I really think rhythm is the magic, not one kind of rule to solve everything. Okay. How many are attacking that one target? Oh, in that exact photo, I think, I don't know. I think the biggest squadron we ever had moving as one unit was 29 frogmen who made a massive attack and then were burned to death. But not really able to give you an exact turn-by-turn break of how many frogmen attacked. It was quite chaotic, and there's a lot of turns in the span of 6.5 some hours. So that was session 18. Boom. There's my recap for the week. So yeah, looking forward to recapping session 19 with everybody. And then there'll be a week off, which I'll still do a live stream, but I won't have a report for you. And then I think too, I have a Friday. There's a show coming up on a Friday. I think it's September 3rd, so I'm going to miss that live stream. So we'll see if we do it on Saturday or whatever. In other news, oh sweet, John, that's awesome. Yeah, John is making a local action news quality segue there. So moving along, if you guys haven't already heard, I know I've been shilling all over the internet, but Viking Death Squad and Index Card RPG Master Edition have both come up for their first sort of run, which is a UK-based pre-sale with Modifius. If you wait until mid-September, the US pre-sale will begin. So that is Modifius's new US distribution center, which is going to give you far more reasonable shipping for US customers if you're ordering through Modifius. So this isn't just cool for Death Squad and Index Card RPG. This is great for everything that Modifius makes. If you're living in North America, this is going to be a real boon to you if you're getting into Homeworld or you play Conan or any or the new Dune RPG or whatever. So that's going to be a real step forward for them. I've been really lucky to have the founder of Modifius on a direct sort of chat line with me through this whole experience. So it's really been fantastic. But if you want to get in and you got that FOMO and you just want to pay for the shipping right away, you can do the UK pre-sale right now. I'm sure the link is floating out there somewhere. Also in mid-September, the same time the US pre-sale comes up, PDFs will be available on Drive-Thru RPG and far, far more affordable than buying the hard copy and getting the free PDF. So if you're the frugal DM who prints your own stuff out, that's for you. And then also with this sort of this revolution of Index Card RPG, as always, everyone who's ever bought ICRPG will get a free core rules update, which is sort of like the first 70 pages of Master Edition. Master Edition is about 408 pages. So you'll get the new core of the game absolutely free. Everyone out there, thousands and thousands of readers are all going to get that free update. You also get the print and play master collection. So you get over 500 print and cut paper miniatures with Index Card RPG. And you also get a massive VTT collection. So it's all my tokens and background images I've made for playing online in the past 5 years. It's almost 1,000 items. It's 930 items in this zip file that you'll be getting with Index Card RPG Master Edition. So that should throw a little bit of nitro on your online play. And then the final little thing I wanted to talk about before we go to the Q&A is the Runehammer Virtual Tabletop is now 100% free to all people across the globe to GM and play. So we had some people wanting this $1 cost to use the Runehammer VTT to go away. So we did it. You ask, I receive, I grant. So now you can use any Patreon login to log into the Runehammer VTT, even if you don't subscribe to anyone on Patreon. So it is now 100% free. It's our really light and easy to use virtual tabletop with its own music player. It's got a lot of great features, and the features are always growing based on user requests, but keeping it really simple. It's kind of a VTT with no menus. And it's really gaining momentum. And really proud. And a super special thanks to Glock, one of my users on Discord, who has completely built this thing from scratch. And it's absolutely brilliant. So now it is 100% free. So get on over there, find that link, and get in there. And thanks a lot, John Harper. That really means a lot coming from you, my friend. That's awesome. Yeah, so if you do the pre-sale right now, you get a PDF. So people are out there reading the newest PDFs, Viking Death Squad and Index Card RPG Master. So really excited. Just finished a podcast with Loco Ludus, old Barney over there in the UK, all about Viking Death Squad, talking a little bit about the mechanics. And I'm going to have some live streams coming up just about that. We're going to talk about best practices and deeper comprehension of the mechanics used in Death Squad, where the idea came from, and what games could look like, what campaigns could look like playing VDS. And I am so excited to talk about it. One of my best mentors in the past told me, never make anything that you're not ready to talk about for 2 years. So I'm really excited to be talking about Viking Death Squad for the next few years. I really hope that it has that much momentum and that kind of sticking power that a lot of people are playing it and reading it. And I'm very, very excited and proud to get it out there in the world. It's just hell yeah to that. So that's all I got for shilling and housekeeping, you guys. That's the OSE recap. If you throw down here with the Legendary Roots crew, we'll get a musical segue to the Q&A. Remember to write question in all caps before your question. And that's about all I got. There's nothing in here I can't toast anybody because, yeah, ate a bunch of oysters last night and drank too many beers. So I find myself without a beer right now. Is there any major difference between Master Edition and Collectors? No. The difference is Collectors is in far smaller print runs, has a cool foil press embossed cover, 2 bookmarks, and cool art end papers in it. So it's basically rarity and quality of features, but the interiors are the same. How do you run initiative? For my OSE group, I run it just, D6 plus your dex bonus. That's it. And then we don't even run sequence initiative. It's just whoever wins starts and we go clockwise from there. And my players have sat themselves at the table in such a way that they count on the halfling winning so that they can all get a turn before it's mine when he wins initiative. And that kind of how to sit players at a table in such a way is all covered in Index Card RPG. Asked about VDS. Yeah. Oh, cool. Nicholas, thanks a lot, man. Yeah. The system, I'm really, really excited about it and had a great talk, like I said, with Loco Ludus about where this system really came from and how this core kind of component, which seems to me so expandable, so hackable, and so intuitive, really came from. And the journey to get here has been a very long one. So thanks a lot. That means a lot. And to say that it's almost as useful as ICRPG is huge. ICRPG is a D20 derivative. It's like a lot of tips and tricks of making D20 games more intuitive and fast. But VDS is truly my creation, and I'm really, really excited about it. Pyronide, what's up? Ancient Society, sure. What is a word or phrase I should base them on? I'm not that familiar with Gith. But if I do Underground Forest, then I would go roots as my power word. I would be building everything out of roots. Root creatures, root structures, maybe roots leading to pathways, maybe roots closing doors and opening doors, kind of roots and stuff. Yeah, Saber Lily, hey, what's up? Typos. Yes, there are like 4 known typos in Viking Death Squad. I know it's like some kind of treasure hunt or something, finding a couple typos. They've already all been fixed. They were fixed the day the PDF was exported. But if you have more and you really think there's something that has been missed, just email me the typos. I am only human. I've done more proofreading on these 2 books than I've ever done any time in the past by a factor of 12. And yet a couple can sneak through. So it's just sort of part of it. I know there's like a thing with finding typos. It's very strange. But maybe you'll find one that hasn't been caught, and that's always worth doing. So thank you, Saber Lily, and just email it to me directly. Wiley, what's up? I'm a big fan. I can't convince my players to give it a try. They're 5e focused. Yeah, don't introduce them to OSE at all. Just hack your 5e in ways that morphs it slightly into whatever it is that appeals to you about OSE. 5e and OSE are not that different. I mean, the power creep in 5e is the big thing that probably you might be chafing on a little bit. So think about ways to decrease power creep. Introduce, get rid of attack rolls. Introduce some of the key sort of components that make OSE cool, but keep them in the world of 5e so that their 5e books are still theirs and stuff like that. Slow boil that frog, man. How do we find this podcast? Look it up. It's called Loco Ludus. And that episode I'm describing, we just recorded, so it won't be out quite yet. Also, check out Trickster's Net. I just did a guest appearance with them as well. Damn it, I want to see the system. A naval campaign. I think it sounds cool on paper, but a lot of times just being on a boat all the time and doing like ship combat and stuff winds up not being nearly as neat as one thinks. It's hard to deliver wonder. It's hard to deliver deep history. So no, I don't have a lot of big tips on running a naval campaign. I see boat time as transitional only. One good, check out the Order of the Amber Die and their sort of sea-based campaign. They had some neat boat stuff. All their stuff is amazing. Are you going to do... Yes, I just said, John Hurst, I will be doing a live stream about the Viking Death Squad system. Party split up. They want to get back together. Yeah, don't do it hand wavy. Take the two split apart parts and talk to them in secret with each other, such that they're each possessing information the other isn't, so that when they come together, they have a fun meeting of the minds that occurs. How you doing? I's fine. I's fine. Any good ideas for a mystery styled first session? No, I don't really do mystery per se, as far as clues and whodunits and stuff like that. I don't do that kind of stuff. I really think that unless your players have explicitly told you they want to live in a Scooby-Doo mystery or like a Clue or even Call of Cthulhu mystery type space, I wouldn't even go there. I would really stick with things being meat and potatoes, especially for the first few sessions, to get a feeling for your players and for the game itself and for the campaign. Like, what's it going to be like? What is the blue mask? Oh, this guy? That's Reginald. It's a sock puppet. Yeah, that's Reginald. That's Reggie. And that is something else. What this is a little bit on... it's a little bit delayed because I've been so busy with Runehammer, but you should be seeing more of this winter. Hey, hello, Calgary. How does he loves D&D. He's only played one session, so it's a little soon to really ask him if he likes it. Why is that? I'm subscribing to have notification. It takes upon itself to ignore the setting. You got to click that little bell, I think. I don't know. How do you tell a DM that you don't want to play their game anymore without hurting their feelings? Just be honest and be straightforward. We're all adults here. Yeah, just be like, yo, I'm going to move on, and I don't want it to be a disruption to the group or anything, but I'm just kind of got to cruise. It's been a great time. That's it. We're all adults here. Just don't make it weird. The minute you have that thought, you probably need to go tell them right now. I don't know. I've never been to the Ren Fair out here yet. This will be the first year. Hey, Hank. What's up? Nico G. The U.S. Modifius stores ship internationally. Well, between their UK and their U.S. hubs, they'll do it based on proximity. So, yeah. Thanks, Storyteller. Appreciate that. Zach, what's up? Do you have experience with GM-less systems? Nope, I don't. Pyronide, when dropping breadcrumbs, how do you choose which breadcrumb to drop in which order? I don't do breadcrumbs nearly as much as I do small reveals, like this piece of weird metal. I wouldn't say that it's a breadcrumb per se trying to lead them somewhere, but I do, knowing the whole truth or the bigger truths of the world makes it quite easy to reveal small elements of that truth. But I don't really try to lead them anywhere per se. I sort of let them go where they like to go. Yeah, Pyronite, exactly. Don't ghost them. Just be honest and be like, hey, I'm kind of going to cruise on. It's a good time. I look emaciated. Is that what you're saying? That is intense. That's so mean. I don't feel emaciated. I feel fantastic, and I don't have a hangover. There is no hangover cure. I mean, get some Gatorade and watch some Netflix. May I ask what runes on your hand means? Oh, on my fingers. Well, it says Ragnarok. Yeah, if you go back to some videos I did almost 4 years ago, I talked about why I got the Ragnarok tattoo. It was a very difficult time in life. Will the UK edition be marked as a UK edition? No, there won't be markings on there. What is the black metal? What? What black metal? Like the music? You mean that, like black metal? Every time I pick up something, how do you come up with so much fun stuff? Well, I've done some videos about that, but honestly, that is a truly unanswerable question, creatively speaking. I mean, I go from all my experience, my education. I'm also old, so I've done a lot of things. I've been a lot of places, played D&D forever, read a zillion books, hang out with a lot of smart people. Just be creative, and like in time, if you're creative on the regular, it just is how you are. It just comes naturally. You just have more ideas than you can even get on paper. Good way to introduce a new character in short without a ton of table for character intro type thing. I've never done really a specific character intro. We even rolled up a new character and brought him into the campaign in the span of 15, 20 minutes. So just be simple with it. Don't make it Shakespearean. Just be really simple. Have I considered game development? I worked in game development for over 20 years. If you mean software game development, yes. Oh yeah, my this is my samurai frog over here. Do ICRPG and VDS share core mechanics? Absolutely not. They are diametrically opposed. They are vastly different. The black metal in Blackmore. Oh, it's not black. It's iridescent. It's pearlescent. And I'm going to save the answer to that question until next session if it's revealed, because it's big. It's a big one. Speaking of breadcrumbs, I only ever plan the next session. I never plan beyond the next session, ever. I am religiously strict about that. It is completely unfair in my mind to plan beyond the next session to players. It removes them really running the game. I never plan beyond one session, ever. It also keeps you sane. Tips for having longer sessions as a DM. No tips. Just have fun. Set yourself up so that everyone's fed and there's plenty of beer and you have a good space where you're not disruptive to other people in the house where you're playing. And make sure that the expectation is there. We generally play from 6:30 to midnight. We all know that. And just, that's, I don't know if there's any real silver bullet to playing longer sessions or like techniques to employ. Just go with it, just go with the flow as you play. What do you think about having old gods backing off and letting PCs become the gods of the world? Yeah, when they kind of become gods, though, I feel it's a good time to retire. I don't think there's a lot of comprehensible struggle at that level of power and stuff. I think that's just a retirement home for high-powered players, and that's cool, too. Where did you learn your art skills? I was basically self-taught. I also did art school, and I've been around great artists all my life. I've had really fantastic teachers, and I've just never stopped. I've been drawing, obsessively since I was probably 5 years old. So that's a solid 42 years of drawing experience. So yeah. And over those 4 decades, you definitely pick up a lot of different tricks, and get in your line art improves and your sense for color improves, and just your sense for engagement in a piece and stuff like that. And there's a lot to learn when it comes to art, but the biggest skill of all, I think, is to have fun doing it. As long as you're having fun doing art, you will continue to improve. So always just set yourself up to have fun, to get positive reinforcement for your art. If you watch any of my art streams, you know that I'm all about that positive reinforcement. Just enjoying doing art so that you're not beating yourself up about it, so that you come back to the art table again the next day. Draw on everything. Draw everywhere, draw all the time, and just embrace whatever it is you are interested in and be a fan and have fun. Power Knight is back. Finding a mentor. Well, you don't really go about it. Unless you want the mentor to be me, I'm right here. You can email me. And that would not be the first time. But generally, a mentor is something you bump into, at least in my experience. It can be hard to seek one out. And also you have to be in the right place in life to really absorb mentorship. You have to be willing to sort of, in some ways, surrender yourself a little bit to get a lot out of mentoring. And I've been lucky enough to have those times in life come up a few times, and really even more lucky just to be around people that I respected and wanted to learn from. And there also are people online that maybe you never meet. I would consider Sparth one of my mentors, but I've only met him like at a con, just to be like, hi, Sparth, you're amazing. But he's not my personal mentor, but he is an artistic mentor of mine. And so I actively pursue whatever he's doing, look at his work, do his tutorials, use his brushes, study what it is that I like about his work, and then try to twist it in my own fun way. What are you most proud of involving Viking Death Squad? It's hard to pin that down. The core mechanics are extremely excited about, but the art was a very personal and amazing journey for me. It was really great to hear my significant other the other night say, when I set out to do Viking Death Squad, I basically told her, I said, I want to revolutionize how I'm drawing. I want to get rid of all the tools. I want to really get back to just drawing with pen. And I want to take a stab at this kind of heavy metal style that I've been interested in. This kind of gritty style with like kind of cobwebs and goo and little bits on everything. And I want to just embrace it. I just want to try it. And now to look back on the art project of Viking Death Squad, which all the art in Viking Death Squad is also available on this little art deck. So I really am proud of the art. This is a long answer to a simple question. But since Viking Death Squad does have a unique art style, I wanted game masters to have a tool like this to bring the unique style to their table. So this is a deck of 72 cards, and it features almost all of the art from Viking Death Squad. So you can use these as visual aids at the table, or even use them as monster counters at the table. There are like all kinds of monsters. There's as well as like landscapes and characters and all the stuff from Viking Death Squad, all in this deck of cards. Yeah. So as you're introducing concepts from Viking Death Squad, you have all the art right here at your disposal. This is the tardigrade bear. Is your partner geeky and artistic? I don't talk about my partner on YouTube. She is awesome. That will do. Thanks, John. How did you go about creating the soundtrack? Well, I used this rig right over here, and I wanted a very specific sound for Viking Death Squad, and so I just made it right here. There's my rig over there. So that's what was used to make the Viking Death Squad soundtrack. Whoa. And now commence camera wiggling as I attempt to. Dear Lord in heaven, Odin's eye. There we go. Okay. Gotcha. All right. Yeah, so that's how I did it. I just sort of visualized this sound and just started working through it and just started to get these nice big rumbly sounds. Will you post the awesome stream you did once about the economy of role-playing with ideas as currency? Yeah, I think it might have been pulled down. Sometimes I pull down my streams because I'm like drinking a lot on YouTube or something. I don't really want to archive things where I'm like having like 7 beers on YouTube. They're fun to do live and it's really a good time, but it's not the kind of thing that doesn't show very good taste to archive. So some of those get pulled down. Where is your fascination for Viking lore? Well, Eric, thanks for the question. I am a descendant of Norman Vikings, so not the more widely known Scandinavian flavor. I have a traceable lineage back to the oarsmen of Duke William the Conqueror. So my family gained its last name in the aftermath of the Battle of Hastings in 1066. And I know that William the Conqueror is not always considered the sort of quintessential Viking, but the Normans were generally still considered Vikings by the sort of the mariner conquest kind of behavioral pattern. And so part of it is heritage. I just also think that they're really interesting and cool. I find them fascinating and I relate to them. Like it calls out to me. So why not follow your nose and do things that you're fascinated with? The Vikings and Viking Death Squad are a little different. Death Squad, I know, is a kind of an intense phrase in the title of an RPG, but it is descriptive for the no-win scenarios that are presented in this RPG. So I didn't use those words wantonly. Those were carefully picked words for a somewhat intense and in some ways dark themed game. Do you plan a session where the DM drew the elements during the game? If you mean draw like with a marker, yes. And if you mean draw like with cards, yes. Yeah, I've grown out the beard a few times. When I hiked across Spain, I grew the beard out, but I don't know. I'm not a beardy guy. Beards are a little crazy for me. I'm not. I don't know, man. Blonde, sort of stringy beards. I don't know. No, my music is not on Spotify for reasons I can't figure out. I keep getting blocked trying to post to Spotify. I really don't know anything about posting music to something like Spotify. I'm a complete noob, and I've not had a lot of time to figure it out. So it's not up there yet, but I'm really working on it. You can get the Viking Death Squad art deck on DriveThruRPG. You can also get the Index Card RPG Essentials deck on DriveThruRPG. I know this is a lot of stuff coming out all at the same time, but that's just how it worked out. I didn't plan it this way. It's just everything got done at the same time. The Index Card Essentials deck comes in this big fat tuck box. It is 120 of the most loved and most useful cards from the Index Card RPG card volumes. So it's all these little landscapes and little features and terrain and stuff like this. Like there is some little poker card terrain here. Like you have this kind of stuff, or you can kind of do this kind of stuff. So there's 120 cards in that. So for people who didn't want to print the PDFs and make all the cards themselves and stuff. Jack, well, minimum game session to progress the plot. I don't know really what that means. You finish sessions early if the spot feels right. Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah, if you're at a real resting point, but I frankly do not get away with ending sessions early. If it's 10:30 and I try to say, okay, well, let's call it right, my players will not have that. They will say, no, let's take a smoke break and we're going to keep going. I really have to kick them out, honestly, at 12:30 or 1 o'clock in the morning. You mentioned rhythm earlier. Do you make some monster spawners invulnerable? Absolutely. You can make a monster spawner a hole in the wall. And the only way to stop it would be to plug it with boulders or something, or cast web on it repeatedly. Yeah, indestructible spawners. Absolutely. Long ships. Okay. When using GM's notebook, go hog wild and let art flow or keep it organized. I don't know what organized means, but I say let it flow. I think the organizing is a false god. I don't think organization is going to get you very far in any discipline. There you go. Words of wisdom from Ingrid Bernhall there. This is some right brain thinking. Organization is totally overrated. Just let yourself be creative and have fun. This is not a job. This is supposed to just be for fun. So just let it be a fun mess. Yeah, we don't use, Chris, good question. We do roll under for attacks. We don't use enemy armor class, and we don't use attack rolls. We do roll under to attack. In OSE, are you using magic slots or roll to cast? Neither. We play it as written. We do single cast, then rest. Are you planning on using those ICRPG cards? Absolutely. This is one of these products that I made that I will be using like next session, like immediately. One thing that's in this deck, in here somewhere, there are like 9 doors. See if I can find one. Because I always, in a lot of my stuff, I find myself needing to mark a door on a scene. Like here's one. This isn't a door, but this is just one that I come across. This is this old bookshelf card from back in the day. I think this is from volume 2. So you just take this bookshelf and you say, yeah, there's a shelf of books over in the corner of this room. You just slap it on the table. And this gets spatial reference for everybody playing, but doesn't require like 3D full color terrain. Oh yeah, I've heard that DistroKid is easy to use, so I might try that. Thanks for that. Appreciate it, Phantom. My Spotify is B-E-E, but the new one will be something different. Do you use Thaco in OSE? No, not at all. We roll under to attack. That's all we do. Roll under to attack. You roll under your strength to attack with melee. You roll under your dex to attack with ranged. What's a tip you have on creating a 2-page spread for an upcoming session? Get your bullets in there. Do a couple of drawings to keep things interesting. And then make sure that you know your whole truth. And then leave a little space somewhere for a bunch of mess, like writing down hit points, writing down momentary ideas for enemy mechanics or kills so that you can track XP accurately, or even loot that pops out when you're rolling for random loot, so that you get some help there. Ruta. That's right. I use Ruta. My favorite rolling method, that I cannot pin that down. I like lots of different games. Hey, I reached the end of the questions because I'm the boss. Oh, yeah. So I've plugged all my stuff. I've recapped my session. I've talked about running a horde. No, monsters roll against character AC. Because you want characters to have armor class so they can have all the detail of exchanging armor and doing armor. And so, yeah, my monsters have a single number. If you take a look at my my PDF 5e hardcore mode, there's sort of a one number system to make monsters, and I still use that. And yes, I use random loot. I do not use charts. I use the visual percentage method, which is covered in detail in my OSE hacked PDF, which has also been posted for free here on YouTube. What about level for roll under? I'm not sure what that means. Can you show your prep for this session? I will. I'll put a pic up on Instagram. Thanks for the stream. Yeah. And those of you who have the OSE hack or have that link handy, you could throw it here in the comments or whatever, but everybody can track that stuff down. There's so many different things going on and questions and different links and places and socials and all this stuff. I've gotten some good coaching from people I trust to try to ease back on constant customer service of like answering everything, single thing individually and do it, because it can make you a little bit crazy when the audience is growing significantly. So trying to ease back, but I always will read every single comment and I'll answer as many things I can directly as I can possibly muster. And then I'm always sort of lurking on the Discord channel if you want to talk to me there. So I'm always around. I mean, this is what I do, and I love talking to people and meeting new people. The question, USA it'll begin in mid-September, and then you'll save a bunch on shipping if you want to do that pre-sale, and you'll just get the book a little bit later than people doing UK pre-sales. It's not a big deal. We're right at the beginning of a great journey of these books being made. So, patience. The excitement is pretty damn cool. It's been kind of insane this week. I'm sort of frazzled. I really need to take a weekend off. So I'm so grateful for that. The excitement around the pre-sale has been legend. Like, we killed the pre-sale. Thank you everybody who showed up for that. It's still going strong. So that's super duper exciting. But answering all these questions and comments and all this stuff is a little like, whoa. So I need to keep that energy strong for Monday night. Variety pack, Southern tier, or victory? I don't know what that means. Thanks for the stream. You bet, Kuchigari. Thanks for the tip. And yeah, if you guys want to check that VTT out, go over to forums.runehammer.online and you will find everything you need to know. There is a thread that covers all the features. It is ever growing, covers the whole thing, and gives you the links you need to sign in to use the Runehammer virtual tabletop. Yeah, totally. Starships. Just wait a little bit and, hit me up in an email. I'll throw you some freebies. It was a beer question. Variety pack, Southern tier, or victory? Oh, I guess I've had some victory beers. I'm not too into that. It's kind of like Yards. Like, Yards gets a bunch of love in Philly. I really don't think it's good at all. I'm not sure what's going on with that. Sorry, anybody out there who's making Yards beer. It's just one guy's opinion. All right, you guys, thanks a lot. That is a solid hour of live streaming on Friday night. Dolphins to Go is going to wrap us up. Is waiting for the going to help boost the numbers for the first run. Yes, like the U.S. pre-sale will still be part of us, building excitement with Modiphius. So if that's one of your goals, first of all, thank you. And yeah, it will work out that way. It's going to be great. We've already done really good. So the impression has been made. Like, this is going to be a great partnership. It's going to go great. We're going to have these books in our hands, and I'm so excited about it. So anyways, we don't need to go over all that again. So I'll see you guys will it be next Friday? I think next Friday might be September 3rd. So I might see you guys next Saturday. Hard to say. Tomorrow I'm going up to Stroudsburg, and I'm going to hang out with Professor Dungeon Master for the day. And we are going to be filming a little collabo together. So that should be fun. Watch out for that in the near future. And I will see all you guys on the internet. Strength, honor, and beer. This is Hankerin Ferinale, your buddy right here at Runehammer, playing D&D just a tiny bit more better than we used to. That's what we do. That's what all this is about. And until next week, catch you later, y'all. Hang in there and take care of each other out there. World's getting a little crazy now and again. We got to look out for each other, all right? One world. See you guys. Dun, 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 dun.